That's the movie. Welcome back here on the Good Morning Artesia radio show. County Commissioner John Henry is with us. We're talking about yesterday's county commission meeting and all the illegal dumping and the ordinance you guys are working on there. What else would you like to talk about from the meeting yesterday?
You know, the one other thing that I'll point out again, I think we talked about it in the last meeting, but we've moved it. In this meeting, we moved it to the next stage, which is those industrial revenue bonds for that solar field that they're looking at doing. And what's happening...
So is it the same people that are trying to do the one in Chaves County, or is this a different
No,
group?
This group is actually doing it. They're kind of doing it almost for themselves, but through themselves, it really helps the community. Because I was a little confused, and so when I asked the question, I don't understand, how does this benefit the taxpayers? So what they're doing is they're going to build, I think they're asking for $40 million of IRBs, and they're going to build this huge solar panel field out next to a lot of their equipment. This is an oil field company doing that. And by doing so, don't quote me 100%, but I think it's 5,000 houses that they're going to not have to take that power to run these plants. They'll be able to create their own power, which will put about that much power from the solar panels. Nothing's going to go to the grid, but they're not pulling from the grid anymore. So
Gotcha.
All that'll stay. So, whereas, in the summers, especially in California had a horrible time with it this last summer, but these rolling blackouts and, hey, please turn your air conditioners up. Hopefully that will help alleviate some of that, because they'll be creating their own and not pulling from the grid and be able to push that down the line. So looks like a really interesting project. I think it should help the city a lot, because it'll keep that power flowing. As of right now, I don't think they're allowed to, and there's no mechanism to put any overage, but they've basically sized this solar panel field just for their plants, so there wouldn't be overage anyways. But even if there was, there's no way to put that on the grid.
Right. So in essence, they're supplementing what they would pull from the grid.
Exactly.
Maybe in some days not even pull anything from the grid.
Exactly. Yes, sir. Yeah, so hopefully, at nighttime, obviously, there's no sun, so there's no power, but so they'd still pull, but the bulk of their energy is used during the day when it's hot and everything else. So so hopefully it will keep more power going down and help Carlsbad and Artesia out with those hot days. We might not have as much trouble. I mean,
right.
It's not a cure-all, but it's at least you're not pulling that much demand up top.
So an IRB, industrial revenue bond, we've heard that term. Commissioners, councilors, throw that out from time to time when different projects come up. But basically, what is an industrial revenue bond?
So it's up to $40 million. So what we're doing is they don't have to do the property taxes and things like that. The one things we do make sure is held whole, because we don't have that authority. You still got to make sure you're hold on your schools, what you would pay if there's any school that would be affected by that, any hospital that would, any other entity that would be affected by this IRB has to be whole. So they still have to pay those. It's just to the county until that is paid off. So it just basically helps them get the project started so they can get it going, and then.
So is the county under any risk with the bond?
No, the county has no risk with the bond, because we're not tied into the project. That was a good question, and I forgot who asked that question, but yeah. So the county has no risk towards it. We're not on the hook for anything. We're just allowing them to not pay property taxes for a while.
For a while, okay. So, because those get proposed quite frequently.
Yeah,
and they don't always get approved.
They don't always get approved. Since I've been on the board, I think this is the third or fourth one. We've done a couple gas plant type deals, or gas plant's the wrong word, but we've done a couple of those, and those are huge. I know $40 million to you and I is huge, right? But in industrial revenue bonds, this is really, really a very small one. Usually they're hundreds of millions. This one is just just 40 million.
40 million, yeah.
Sad to say, I'm almost sounding like Biden. So sorry, guys. I don't say it just. It's still a lot of money, but to help this project, if we can get some more power coming down, maybe that'd be a good thing.
Yeah. Well, that kind of flies in the face, because if you listen to some of the environmentalist wackos, Eddy County is just opposed to anything other than extractive industries.
Yes, we are. Absolutely. We're anti. We cut trees down. So I don't know what we would be called, but it's bad.
Wait a minute. Do we plant new trees?
Yeah, of course.
Well,
we plant new trees.
What's the problem then?
And, I always think it's hilarious. And we've had that discussion. It's so funny to talk to them on how much we hate. You hate green energy. I don't hate green energy. Show me green energy. Prove it to me. And then we'll have that discussion. And that completely messes with their brains. Because there's no such thing as green energy. I don't care what anyone tells you.
Yeah.
Everything. These solar panels have to be manufactured somewhere. And I think they probably put off heat. If you look at it, there's all these other studies that show that they're bad. And so there is no green energy. I think they can all complement each other. But there is no, except oil and gas, the only thing that can sustain itself. But the others can't.
Yeah.
If you don't have oil and gas, you don't have those pretty little windmills that are just so beautiful. Yeah. Feels like you're...
Well, now wait a minute. The people in Holland had windmills before we had the oil and gas industry.
That's what I was going to say. It's like driving through Holland. It's beautiful and they're massive and
I mean, weren't they made out of wood or something like that?
And pretty. And these are not. So, and I'm pretty sure you can't see those from 50, 60 miles away.
I don't know. I went back home here a few years ago, and the people right across the river from where I grew up were Dutch, Dutch heritage. And so their big tourist attraction was a windmill that they got from, from Dutch land. What was it?
Yeah. Is it
Holland? Holland. Yeah, I'm sorry. And they brought it over and they built. I mean, the thing is huge.
Yeah.
It's a massive building. So
really?
It's just not as tall.
Yeah.
And the blades aren't as big as the modern ones that we have out there now, but they're still massive structures,
We were coming back from Waco. My daughter goes to Baylor, so we were over there visiting, coming back, and Sweetwater, obviously, it seems like the capital of those things. And it was night. And when they all blink at once, it like messes with my eyes. I'm like, whoa, I hate it. I think they're terrible, but.
Yeah, it's like coming back from Portales at night and you're heading to Elida.
Yeah, right.
And you look off in the distance, and they're all like that out there. There's some pretty big fields out there, so we'll see. Anyway, it's all fun to figure that out. What else do we have on the agenda here?
That pretty much sums up the bulk of what we did yesterday. The stuff that's interesting on here.
The stuff that's interesting.
Oh, well, I'm completely wrong. We skipped over 7. The resolution updating Eddy County Commission districts. We did have a meeting not too long ago to kind of look at all the district maps. There's not a massive change. The biggest change would be my district, mainly because Artesia grew, which is a good thing. Our population grew in the city. So out on Bullock and all those and new streets. So whereas in the past, Commissioner Beard's district would kind of come down and Pac-Man around mine, I guess I always called it Pac-Man. It looked weird and would kind of come through the city weird. So now, basically, District 2 is Artesia. So it's squared off and because of that pickup in population. And so Commissioner Beards now wraps around Artesia. He always had hope, or that district always had hope, but then picks up Cottonwood, which is a huge part of his district. I think when we were looking at the map, there's 1,200 voters out in Cottonwood. So basically, Commissioner Beards is the biggest district out of all of us. I mean, he's practically all of Eddy County, but it's all rural. He doesn't really have any city pickup at all. Cottonwood will probably be his biggest voter population next to Happy Valley. Those are probably pretty equal. But then the rest of it's Atoka and some of those rural kind of pockets throughout Hope, which isn't a huge pocket. So his district looks massive, but it's still, I felt pretty comfortable with it being a pretty good district because that's one of the seats that Artesia looks at to try to balance that board and make sure that maybe we have 1 or 2 commissioners on there. Obviously, we have 1 because Artesia, but trying to keep that. Now, there is another district that kind of drops down and catches the other side of Atoka and out. I lost Riverside. I used to have Riverside, and out. I don't have that anymore now. I think that's McCutcheon's district comes and picks that up a little bit. So, so there is opportunity. I think there's good opportunity to keep the board, make sure it's balanced well. And, you know, for the most part, I say the most part, my experience with this current board, it wouldn't matter. But I know there's been boards in the past where that would matter a great deal. And we want to make sure Artesia has a good, strong voice. So,
Yeah.
so we kept him fair. I thought it looked good. I was happy with it. The biggest movements that were happening were up in Carlsbad. They were swapping districts to keep things a little more congruent and straight.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot different than the state process, I guess.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we were a lot more agreeable and a lot more. We'd work together to make sure that the citizens are represented. Where I don't know that.
Yeah,
that's going on somewhere else.
I think that one of the oddest things I heard was when we were talking with Representative Townsend the Monday before all the final shenanigans, and they finally settled in on what they did. And he was telling me that he was talking to the Speaker, Egoff, as they were drafting the rules for the special session.
Yeah.
And he said, why are you proposing some of these rules? What's the reason for that? And he said, the Speaker said, well, we're afraid that you Republicans are going to be like the Texas Democrats and leave and go to Washington.
Yeah, because that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard that.
And Townsend's like, well, wait a minute. Who was in the roundhouse during the whole previous year or so? And secondly, why would we go to Washington? That'd be like the last place New Mexico Republicans.
Maybe go to Texas. I don't know. But Washington's not a safe haven
it's not a safe haven. So
no, I think it's hilarious that they come up with these rules and all the stuff we're seeing on the Hill right now. We're still mad at Trump. We're still trying to find he did something wrong somewhere. And guys, y'all got to get over it.
Yeah.
You know, let's move on from the country and let's try to figure some of this.
It's going to be an interesting election because if, and this is not county commission business, just us talking.
Yeah.
I'm one of those, call me a conspiracy wacko. I don't believe Biden got more votes than Trump did.
Right. I would agree with that.
Too many things that went on in too many states.
Yeah.
That too many Republicans, along with Democrats, said, we got rid of Trump. We're not going to dig in. Now, we will do some tweaks here to make sure it's not as obvious next time.
Yeah.
But we're not going to do anything to save Trump because we don't like Trump. And that got a lot of people mad. And then you've seen everything that's happened over the last year. One of the comedians on the Gutfeld show was saying, I don't think Trump even has to campaign next time. He just needs to throw his name out there and he's likely to win. Now, I don't know if that's true or not because there's still some people that, for whatever reason, don't like Trump because of his personality. But I can't see how anything that's happened over the last year is going to help incumbents on a national level have any kind of success. I don't know. I don't see it.
No, I would agree. And I was watching a program this weekend that they're even already saying, Joe, come out and say you're not running again. You can't run again. And this is their own people.
Yeah.
I think he's shown a horrible presidency. But his surrounding support cast, the Speaker, all the folks in Washington that are high up in the Senate and the House are showing horrible leadership. I mean, they're not getting anything accomplished.
Right.
Thank goodness. I mean, that's not me complaining because they've got some horrible ideas.
Yeah.
And,
no, it has been kind of crazy. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you. Yes. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year, I guess, because I don't think I'll be here before then. And
that's right.
But I'm not sure. If I see you before then, I'll tell you again.
All right. And we'll see you next year.
Merry Christmas. Happy
All
New
right.
Year.
Let's go to the news.
I'm Rich Thomas.